good morning everyone. Salamat po sa invitation, SKKC. It is a great pleasure po to be with you virtually, Women of Cavite, and discuss with you a very timely topic. So the first question for today is, how are you? Are we still thankful when we wake up each morning? When we see the sun, can you still start each day with a smile? Kamusta na po kayo, mga kapatid? Kamusta na po ba tayo during these very challenging times? We thought pag may vaccination na, our problem with COVID will end. But still, as of this moment, COVID is still real. May mga variants, no? And I think the situation is getting worse. So, with these situations, how are we coping so far? So, who among you feel depressed with what's happening? Are you still on a panic mode? Kahit na we are in the pandemic for more than 1.5 years. So, let's be honest to ourselves. Pwede tayo siguro mag-share in our chat box or comment box na how did we cope, strategies that we tried. No, it's also good to know kasi that we are not alone in this situation. Hindi naman mo Kristyano tayo, we are exempted from these feelings. And for us doctors, it is doubly challenging because we have to rise above the situation. We cannot give up because there's a lot of patients who are dependent on us. And all of us actually should not give up because we all have families who depend on us. So before I go through this topic, may mga disclosures lang po ako, no, na I'm not an expert in mental health. I am an OB-gynecologist as mentioned. My expertise is on women, no, from childhood to menopause. Most of my discussion would be from experts like psychiatrists and psychologists. And I want to give due credit to Dr. Cornelio Banaag, the father of child psychiatry, because most of my talk would be from his talk, Coping with Anxiety and Uncertainty. And Dr. Cornelio Banaag Jr. from his son, from one of the webinars I attended. So our topic is on mental health. No? Our discussion actually is not for us to diagnose, but to create awareness that there is such a thing as mental condition. And mental health, like our physical health, we also need to take care of it. No? Mental health is an important part of health. Sabi nga, there's no health without mental health. So like what we do with our physical health, tayo mga women, we do annual pap smear, annual mammogram. Most of us monitor our sugar, our cholesterol, no? But I think none of us do an annual mental health check. Meron ba? Is anyone from us does annual mental health checkup? So depression is a very common illness. We should know that about 300 million worldwide suffer from it. That's from WHO 2017. And in US, most affected are the teenagers. It's important to note that women are about twice affected than men, and we will discuss later why. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among people ages 10 to 34. And nearly 50% of diagnosed with depression also have anxiety disorder. So it's very alarming. But do you know that depression is very treatable condition? But 35% of adults receive none because of the stigma that comes with it. So let's look at the Philippine data. So sabi ng World Health Organization, 3.3% or 3.3 million of Filipinos are experiencing depressive symptoms. No? This is based on the population in 2015. At ang healthcare workers natin, alam niyo ba na from 40% during non-pandemic to 70% nitong pandemic, ang mga doktor ay na-burnout. At ang ating support system, healthcare workers na nagsusupport sa doctors, sa hospital are 5 times more likely to experience pandemic-related burnout. And women in medicine traditionally have experienced higher levels of burnout than men. So bakit nga ba't wise as many women ang affected ng depression than men? The following are the factors, no? Tayo rin kasi yung nagpapa-check up, mas tayo sa health natin. Mas nadadiagnose tayo, mas nalalaman natin yung sakit natin. And tayo rin yung may stressful life events. Tayo yung nagbubuntis, tayo yung nanganganak, tayo yung nagme-menstruation, tayo yung nagme-menopause. All of those are related to hormones, no? May hormonal imbalance tayo na nakakaapekto ng ating neurotransmitter o yung ating chemical sa brain. And tayo rin yung mas emotional, no? Mas emotional tayo mag-cope sa ating mga problema, sa ating mga dealings, sa ating mga pang-araw-araw na buhay. At tayo rin yung maraming social roles. So, housewife, mayroon tayong husband, may mga apo, no, na iintindihin sa bahay, at tayo pagka may career, no, ating mga workplace, meron na nararanasan mga job inequality, discrimination, and minsan pagka ikaw na ang bahala sa bahay, ikaw pa rin ang magtatrabaho, ay talagang mabe-burn out tayo, no? So, with this, di ba, depression is real. Are we depressed? Are you depressed? O baka isa sa kapamilya mo ay may depression na. How would you know? So, aralin natin, no? So, depression is different from usual mood fluctuations. Yung mga reaction natin sa ating everyday life, usually they are short-lived emotional responses. But when long-lasting with moderate and severe intensity, depression may become a serious health condition. It can cause the affected person to suffer greatly and function poorly at work, at school, and in the family. And as its worst, depression can lead to suicide. So dapat malaman natin, because baka konting push na lang natin ay mag-suicide na pala yung kapamilya natin, hindi pa natin alam. So objectively, we can answer it through a diagnostic tool, which we call Patient Health Questionnaire 9. So it's an excellent screening instrument for depression. So we just need to answer the 9 questions, no? Isa-isahin natin. Ikaw ba ay may little interest or pleasure in doing things? Feeling mo ba down na down ka, depressed, hopeless, wala ka ng pag-asa? Number 3, do you have a trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, or you're sleeping too much kasi ayaw mo nang matanong ka, ayaw mo mastorbo ka, no, with what you're feeling? So feeling tired or having little energy. So kahit na bagong gising ka, pagod na pagod ka pa rin. Poor appetite or overeating. Naku, maraming madadiagnose na depressed dito sa overeating. So feeling bad about yourself or that you are a failure and have let yourself or your family down. So yung feeling mo na hindi mo natulungan ng kapamilya mo, lalo ngayong COVID, no? Wala kang nagawa para sa pamilya mo. Kami mga doktor, may mga kamag-anak din na wala during COVID. And sometimes we feel helpless because of the situation. And 7, trouble concentrating on things such as reading newspaper, watching television. Nakatitig ka lang, pero actually hindi ka nanonood. Wala kang concentration. So number 8, moving or speaking so slowly that other people could have noticed. Or the opposite, being so frigidly or restless, that you have been moving around a lot more than usual. So hindi ka mapakali, tayo ka ng tayo, hindi ka makaupo ng matagal, or the other way, gusto mo lang nakaupo, wala kang gustong gawin. Or number 9, thoughts that you would be better off dead or hurting yourself in some way. So kung iniisip mo, mabuti na mawala na lang ako, no? So signs of depression 'yan. So kung lahat ito nararamdaman mo over the past 2 weeks, so yun ang cut off, 2 weeks. How often in 2 weeks time na nararamdaman mo siya? Kung nearly every day ganyan ang pakiramdam mo, you score yourself 3. Kung more than half the days, 2. So every day pero half day lang. Or several days in 14 days. Or not at all. So for interpretation of your scores, 1 to 4, minimal lang yan. 5 to 9, mild depression. 10 to 14, moderate depression. And it's very alarming if you have 15 to 19, moderately severe depression. And 20 to 27, severe depression. And that can lead to suicide if not addressed by a mental health specialist or professional. So let's discuss naman the anxiety. So anxiety may be normal, no? It's body's natural response to stress. So it's a feeling of fear or apprehension about what's to come. So like first day in school of our kids, no? Going to a job interview or giving a speech may cause most people to feel fearful and nervous. But those are normal response to some challenges in our life. So, but anxiety disorders are different, no? Pwedeng constant na to, overwhelming, kahit wala na yung triggering factor, still you feel nervous, fearful. The result of excessive anxiety can make you avoid work, ayaw nang pumasok sa school, no? And even family get-togethers, you don't want to come, and other social situations na baka may magtanong pa sa'yo doon, no? Kung ano talaga, what's happening to you. And it might trigger or worsen your symptoms or your situation. So we use also another tool for general anxiety disorder measurement or assessment. We call this GAD-7, which is General Anxiety Disorder 7. So this is one of the most frequently used diagnostic self-report scales, no, to measure the severity of anxiety disorder. So 7 because we have 7 items to answer. Like the PHQ, we also need to score ourselves according to these feelings, no? So isa-isahin po uli natin yung mga symptoms na we need to look at, no, for anxiety. So number 1, feeling nervous, anxious, or on the edge. Ibig sabihin, tense na tense ka kahit wala na yung triggering factor. Number 2, not being able to stop or controlling worrying. Kahit na anong gawin mo, matulog ka, or any activity, naiisip mo pa rin yung kinaka-worry mo. Worrying too much about different things. So hindi mo naman sakop ng control mo, but still you worry. You trouble relaxing, hindi ka makarelax. So like in depression, kahit ano gawin mo, you cannot relax. Being so restless that it is hard to sit still. So the same as depression then, no? Becoming easily annoyed or irritable. So minsan ng mga bata, nagtataka bakit ano nasabi ko? Bakit nagalit agad? So, pwede yung asawa rin natin, no? Pwede sabihin na ang bilis nating magalit, ang bilis nating mairita. So, watch out for that. Number 7, feeling afraid as if something awful might happen. Like fire alarm. Wala na yung fire, alarm pa ng alarm. na control na, alarm pa rin ng alarm. So, natatakot ka sa something might happen na wala naman, no? So, if you are experiencing these symptoms nearly every day over 2 weeks, you score yourselves 3. If more than half the days, so nakaka-recover pa, half days lang, but every day, so you score yourself 2. Kung several days, of out of 14 days, score yourself 1. And not at all, 0. So let's check your scores. So for the interpretation, if you scored yourself 0 to 4, so wala kang anxiety. 5 to 9, mild. So yung some responses may be normal, kung paminsan-minsan lang naman. So 10 to 14, moderate. And 15 to 21, severe. So from 10 to 21, you need to seek medical attention. So do you know that anxiety pre-pandemic is only 18% and it rose to 39% during the pandemic in the study in 2021 January. So depression pre-pandemic is 7% and it rose to 40 to 41%. So now we know that we have anxiety, we have depression, but we have to accept it. We have to accept that we or our relatives or our friends have anxiety or depression so we can address it. So how can we rise nga above these challenging times? The hardest question during these times na hindi pa tayo makabawi or hindi pa tayo makabalik sa normal situations. But I want to answer it medically or scientifically. We all know that science is God's gift to us. And at this point, I want you to understand what's happening in our brain when we have anxiety, when we have depression. So remember that your brain is an organ. So the human brain is believed to function in a complex chemical environment through various types of neurons and neurotransmitters. Medyo highfalutin medical terms, but simple lang. Yung brain natin ay parang may fertilizer para mag-function siya. There's a key molecule for memory, for adaptation in a healthy brain. So, yung brain cells natin are communicating through this chemical, no? Through chemical messengers. So, we call that brain-derived neurotrophic factor. So, we will just call it BDNF. BDNF is a fertilizer of the brain, no? It's a key molecule in memory, in neuroplasticity, or how our brain adapt, rewire, rebuild, no? Para makakope sa sang stress. So there's such a thing as that when we have stress, okay? And during stress, our brain is not spared. So the BDNF levels decreases. So pag nangyari yon, it lowers brain connectivity. Nahihirapan tayo mag-concentrate, no? Na babawasan ng stress tolerance natin, nagiging irritable tayo, and later on we go into burnouts, no? So if you do not find ways to reverse it and it becomes chronic or yun, more than 2 weeks, so meron ng magiging complications. We may not able to sleep, mawalan tayo ng appetite, or minsan may mood problems tayo, and it may complicate to mental condition like depression and anxiety disorder or panic attack. So let me emphasize to you how stress affects the brain and the body. So what happens to our body when we get stressed? So clinicians or the doctors see this in our clinics. So dadating sila, may headache, heartburn, no, mabilis ang paghinga, mabilis ang tibok ng puso, or mataas ang blood pressure, hindi makatulog, nanghihina, or even fertility problems and missed periods. We see that in our clinics. And if you examine them, wala kang makita. If you do request for laboratory examinations, ultrasound, normal lahat. Sometimes we just tell them to take a break, take vitamins, go out and see the sun. No? Simple lang pala ang kailangan. So let's regularly check our body and brain health. Naapektuhan na ba tayo ng stress? So if it's more than 2 weeks, medyo alarming na yan. Let's seek help. So let me give to you ways naman to boost your brain function with BDNF even without anxiety pa, wala pang depression, mild pa lang. We can do something about it. So very simple. NIH or National Institute of Health says adults need 7 to 8 hours of sleep each night to stay in good mental and physical health. Study indicates that the brain goes through a cleansing process habang natutulog tayo. So experts say that this cleansing washes away proteins, yung mga bad proteins that accumulate during the day and can help lower the risk of dementia and mental condition. So another thing is physical exercise. It can increase your BDNF. So talagang maganda ang ginagawa ng exercise to our body, no? It increases BDNF sa ating brain and even in skeletal muscles. Sabi yung movement of hands, movement of feet, malaki ang nagagawa sa ating brain function. So sa diet naman, anong pwede natin gawin? So these are the 10 diets that increase BDNF. Siguro if we have mild to moderate anxiety or depression, we can take green tea, blueberries, red grapes, medyo mga mamahaling prutas, olive oil or extra virgin olive oil, soy-based products, dark chocolate, yung palang ating tabliya, cacao, no? It contains phytonutrients to increase BDNF. Turmeric, fatty fish. So, hindi lang yung mamahaling salmon, pwede rin yung mackerel, anchovies, sardines, and herring. Eggs and coffee can increase our BDNF. Pero sa coffee, ang healthy, mga once a day. So what to avoid naman? Let's avoid sugar processed foods and high fructose corn syrup. Yung high fructose corn syrup, yan na po yung ginagamit kasi cheaper siya, sweeter sa mga processed food because it can lead to insulin resistance. Ibig sabihin, pwedeng hindi mag-function yung mga cells at hindi mag-effect ang insulin. It can increase our sugar. It can lead to obesity, type 2 diabetes, and high blood pressure. So what are these food and drinks that are rich in high fructose corn syrup? So soda, no, soft drinks, very high in sugar content. Candy and candy bars are mostly made of sugar. Processed desserts, sweetened yogurt, salad dressings, frozen junk foods, breads, and canned fruit and canned juice. So what are the other ways to boost your brain function with BDNF? Of course, yung mental stimulation na mga activities. Ano to? Word games, games and puzzles, card games. Nako, so pasadong-pasado dito ang COC women ng PAHO because ito ang mga ginagawa namin pag may lamayan. Medyo may pagka-addict kami sa Scrabble. So, chess and strategy games, reading, activities involving the use of hands, physical exercise, dancing, aerobics, Zumba. So, healthy activities like yun nga, cooking, gardening, and it falls din naman under hobbies. So parang wala yata dito ang telenovela and Korean novela and the likes. So ano pang ibang ways, no? Get some sun. Lumabas ka, magpaaraw ka. Dahil may scientific explanation din yon. So interestingly, they were able to correlate levels of BDNF with a diagnosis of depression as well as with low BDNF level, highly related to this diagnosis. Ito rin ang explanation why individuals may become depressed during winter months, no? When living in places with little sunshine. Spend time in the sunlight, no? We can go out, do some exercise under the sun, read our books under the sun. So dito sa amin sa Paho, may humayaw, pagong, pulo na pwedeng puntahan. But of course, you have to observe precautionary measures ng gobyerno, no? So one of the ways I really wanted to emphasize on is this one. So be with family and friends. Sa akin, lagi ko sinasabi sa aking mga anak, importante ang relasyon, no? Relationship to God and relationship to your family. No? Mas i-value mo yan over material things, over anything. So there's also scientific explanation for this, no? Yung pinag-aralan dito, yung association ng social relationship with BDNF, with the risk of stroke, and the conclusion is the availability of social support appears to be associated with increased BDNF levels. And in certain subsets, it reduced the subsequent dementia and stroke. So, importante ang social support. In relations to social support, I want to expound on this slide, no? What are the things you should not say? Kasi minsan, tayo, akala natin nakakatulong tayo, no? With what we say, with what we do, no? Sa taong depressed or sa taong may anxiety na. So I have few reminders for the things you shouldn't say, no, to these people. So wag mong sabihin na it's all in your head, na para bang hindi natin tinatanggap na may problema talaga sila or sila lang ang may mali sa iniisip nila. So number 2, it's really not that big of a deal. Hindi mo pwede sabihin ang lit-lit na bagay, baka on the edge na sila of deciding if we will, kung sila ay mag-suicide or hindi, at sasabihin mo lang, it's really not that a big deal. You know? So just push through with it. Makakaraos din. Itawid mo lang yan. Kaya mo yan. Just stop worrying so much. Kontrolin mo. Eh, hindi nga nila makontrol. Diba? Then, next, just try to think about something else. Kalimutan mo na yan. Huwag na yung isipin. So, it's a no-no then, no? We all get a little anxious sometimes. Pwedeng sabihin mo, normal lang yan. Talagang nagkakaganyan tayo. Then, you need to just calm down. Sabihin, manahimik ka, mag-relax ka nga. And lastly, I think you are being dramatic. Huwag po natin sabihin na kaartehan lang yan, no? So let's accept their problems. Let's accept that they are undergoing process, no, of anxiety and depression. So these comments may push them to a higher level of depression and anxiety. So be careful po. What can we do? Just listen to them. Just express your love for them. Give them support, pray for them, and pwede yayain natin silang mag-exercise. Pwede rin yung hobbies nila ay samahan natin sila doon or go out and get some sun, no? And the most important way to boost our BDNF is to ensure stable and supportive relationships. You know, one thing I feel bad about the webinars I attended about mental health, most of them do not discuss something spiritual. And even World Health Organization's definition of mental health is just a state of well-being, no? Yung makakope ka sa normal stresses of life, no? Maging fruitful ka, productive ka, and make contribution to your community. And it was also mentioned that Mental health includes our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. So it affects how we think, how we feel, how we act. Where's the spiritual part? Parang yun ang hinahanap ko, no? Kasi there are teenagers, young adults, and even professionals who commit suicide. So, pag-isipin natin, they have material things, may career sila, bakit may emptiness pa rin? Meron pa rin kakulangan. And I think it's because they lose sight of God's purpose in their life. I remember one pastor na nagkwento about John the Baptist na binigay siya upang maging joy ng kanyang nanay, no? Gusto kong isingit dito yung pagiging nanay natin na minsan na lose sight tayo of their purpose in our life. So yung unang binigay sila sa atin is it's a gift from the Lord, no? To give joy to us. But sometimes we lose sight of it at ang nagiging joy natin yung achievements nila, yung kanilang mga awards, no? I know we want best for them. But sometimes, dun sa mga demands natin, tapos sila napipressure, or minsan they feel sad pag hindi nila nabigay yun sa atin, no? And our purpose also of raising them. Ano ba talaga ang purpose? Of course, we want them to be raised in God's character at makilala nila ang Panginoon na nagmamahal sa kanila. Kahit sino pa man sila, kahit ano pa naman sila. So let's look onto that. No? They might be suffering from stress, suffering from anxiety or depression. We might not know na gusto na lang i-hurt ang sarili nila or commit suicide. Let's look onto that. Let's monitor our children, kung ano yung ginagawa nila, how is their relationship with the Lord. So that is one stable and supportive relationship we should give to our children, their relationship with the Lord. That they have a Father in heaven, they have the Holy Spirit that can comfort them, they have the Lord Jesus Christ that saved them and will walk them through this pandemic. So yan po ang most important thing that can boost their brain function and mental health. So the Bible is not actually silent about anxiety and depression. If you will search for verses related to anxiety and depression, napakadami po. And I want to end my lecture with some of those verses. In Psalm 43:5, why are you downcast, O my soul? And why are you in turmoil within me? Hope in God, for I shall again praise him, my salvation and my God. So the Bible is not silent about our anxiety, our depression. God knows it. And our only hope is God. The Lord is
From
my
Psalm
light and my
27,
salvation.
114.
Whom shall I fear? The Lord is the stronghold of my life. Of whom shall I be afraid? Wait for the Lord. Be strong and let your heart take courage. Wait for the Lord. Now, let's go back to what God has given us, what God has sacrificed for us. He sacrificed his only son for us. So let's go back to that great love that God has given us. So God is alive and God is not silent about our anxiety and depression. So God loves us deeply. He will take care of us. He will be our hope during this time of anxiety, of depression. Thank you so much for this opportunity to share with you. God bless us all.